Zoologist, likes yoga and lizards. She dissects dodos. Connor, first-year paleontology student, belongs to a chess club, has defied an ancient creature. Claudia, works for the government, has a secret crush. She believes the unbelievable. Stephen, research assistant, likes hiking and diving. He kills monsters. Nick Cutter, university professor, misses his wife, has seen the past.
Time for adventure. Primeval, coming soon to STV.
Last Saturday on Pokerface,
there's a lot to win, but even more to lose.
Antonia lost her nerve.
3, 2, 1, fall.
And her place on Pokerface.
It was the wrong decision.
The £1 million quiz show Pokerface, Saturday 8:45 on STV.
You two have a genuinely gorgeous body.
I'm actually with the Mexican ambassador, the head of Amnesty International, and you're on speakerphone.
Everybody loves a good romance and a happy ending. Bridget Jones, The Edge of Reason, Wednesday at 9 on STV. Well, still to come tonight at 11:05, it's Jack Osborne, Adrenaline Junkie. Now on STV, the ITV News.
Another child sex offender is at liberty tonight. Another judge lays the responsibility at the door of the Home Secretary. More and more judges are condemning his intervention and telling him they'll decide who goes inside. Tonight, a Home Secretary under pressure, but John Reid remains defiant.
Well, of course, the guidelines under which these decisions are made haven't changed at all. I reaffirmed the guidelines. The guidelines are quite clear.
The Home Secretary's position was made even worse today when the head of the Youth Justice Board resigned his post, claiming that prisons were cluttered up with minor offenders. We're live with the latest. Also tonight, Spiked, the editor of Britain's top-selling paper, quits as one of his reporters is jailed in the royal phone-tapping scandal. The Green Prince, Charles, is criticised for flying mob-handed to America to collect an environmental award. We're live in Philadelphia. And Prince Bex, the master of the curveball in a brand new strip, aiming at a brand new target.
I'm the prince and I'm sort of slaying a dragon, which is something I've never done before, obviously.
And the main headline here, death row Scot Kenny Ritchie has told Scotland Today he'll either be home or executed by the summer.
Good evening. He said again today he was just issuing a reminder about sentencing, and it just happened to coincide with prisons being full to bursting. But tonight, more and more judges are up in arms about the Home Secretary's untimely intervention. Another child sex offender walked into the community today as the prison overcrowding crisis intensified. It was Judge Graham Cottle at Exeter Crown Court who released a convicted paedophile on bail. And in a clear reference to John Reid's letter, he said, there are difficulties remanding people in custody at the moment. Well, we're live with our correspondent Helen Callahan in Devon tonight. But first to Harry Smith, who's at the Home Office. Harry.
Alistair, he is the Home Secretary who walked through these doors and famously declared that his new department was simply not up to the job, and he promised to do all he could to put it right. Well, the troubles haven't gone away, and critics tonight are asking, is it not so much the Home Office as the Home Secretary who simply isn't fit for purpose?
The problem, prison overcrowding. The system is at breaking point. The solution from the Home Secretary to recommend judges only imprison the most dangerous of criminals. But the idea of politicians interfering in the judiciary appears to have put the two sides at loggerheads and escalated the pressure on John Reid. In Exeter, Judge Graham Cottle released on bail a child sex offender, saying if this case had been here last week, it would have been over by now and he would be in Exeter prison. In North Wales, Judge John Rogers gave a suspended sentence to a man who admitted making indecent images of children. The judge said, "As of yesterday, I have to bear in mind a communication from the Home Secretary." And in Northampton, Judge Richard Bray said politicians should wake up because the reason our prisons are full to overcrowding, and have been for years, is because judges can no longer pass deterrent sentences. But the Home Secretary says he's simply restating long-standing guidelines.
Obviously, the judges at the top see the wider picture. Very often, those who are not at the top see the person who's sitting in front of them. So from time to time, we give the bigger picture to the judiciary. But in doing that, what I did was reaffirm the guidelines.
Attending a summit in Switzerland, the Prime Minister gave his full support.
If there is any question at all of a judge being under some misapprehension that we're somehow saying if someone's a danger to the public, you let them out because the prisons are crowded, yes, there's pressure on prison places, but the thing that comes first is protecting the public.
But the opposition say it's a crisis of the government's own making.
We told them for years to build more prisons, to actually provide more places, to make sure that the courts could protect the public from dangerous criminals, and they failed.
And one retired judge says relations between the government and the judiciary are now heading towards a new low. He says that if he'd received the Home Secretary's letter, he'd have thrown it in the waste bin.
If he's trying to influence them in some way, in order to get his coals out of the fire that has been made by lack of sufficient prison places, then I, for my part, think it's deplorable. He should not be trying to influence judges in the sentences they pass. They must follow the guidelines. That's what they do, and that's what I think they should continue to do.
All of which must leave staff at the Home Office wondering when they will be declared fit for purpose. Harry Smith, ITV News at the Home Office.
As we've just heard, the case of the convicted paedophile Keith Morris, who was freed on bail, has angered and worried a whole community. Our reporter Helen Callahan is in the village of Ilsington in Devon tonight. Helen.
That's right. Parents picking up their children from the local primary school this afternoon could not believe that a paedophile had been allowed to come back to the village, living just a little distance away from this area where their children go to school every day. Now, he will go to jail, but in the meantime, the judge needs to assess just how dangerous he is. So tonight, in this village, there's widespread worry and anger. Ilsington, a rural idyll in Devon, and home to a dangerous paedophile who would be behind bars if there was a cell to send him to. 46-year-old Keith Morris admits engaging in sexual activity with a child who doesn't live in the village. Yet while Morris waits to be sentenced, he's living near a primary school. Parents are furious.
That's not right. No, I don't agree with that. I think it's disgusting. You don't send them back into like a little village. It's just schools just up the road.
Angry, really, yeah. That, like you say, that we have got into this state where people obviously have been found guilty that are back out in the community.
Oh, that's not good. The government should be making more prisons, really.
Staff at the school told police that Morris had been hanging around people's gardens, yet the judge said because of the current difficulties remanding people in custody, Morris must go home.
As a parent and a governor, I'm disturbed that the judge felt he was unable to remand this person in custody whilst pre-sentence reports are prepared. But we take heart from the judge's comments about the seriousness of these offences. Indeed, that is why we made these representations to the police in the first case.
Morris faces a maximum of 14 years in jail for what he's done. As the judge remarked, if this case had been heard last week, there's no doubt Morris would be in Exeter prison right now. Between 8 o'clock in the morning and 5 in the evening, Keith Morris has to stay inside his own house, but at night he can come and go as he pleases. Here there's a feeling that the courts and certainly the government have utterly failed the families of Ilsington. Helen Callahan, ITV News, Devon.
Right, back now to Harry Smith at the Home Office. Harry, John Reid sticking to his guns, but how much trouble is he in tonight?
Well, Alistair, I think that the fact that you have such a senior politician giving up his Friday afternoon to do a hectic round of television interviews to restate his policy suggests that he thinks he's in some trouble. Now, most observers, however, don't think he's in that much trouble. However, political careers are made, broken or made by events. Now, the Home Office has a nasty habit of throwing up events that are totally unpredictable. And if we see that one of those people who should have been sent to prison but hasn't been because of his reiteration of the guidelines then goes on to commit a serious offence, then yes, I think he will be in trouble, but I don't think he's there yet.
Harry, thanks. And at a time when some judges are saying it's difficult to send paedophiles to prison, a man was jailed today for intercepting mobile phone messages. The News of the World's royal editor, Clive Goodman, got 4 months for plotting to hack into the voicemails of royal aides. The judge said his actions were as low as it gets. Tonight, the paper's editor, Andy Coulson, resigned. John Gilbert now on mobile justice.
Sacrificial scapegoat or acquiescent accomplice. The resignation of News of the World editor Andy Coulson may heap further shame upon the newspaper, but it also now raises serious questions about the level at which the phone tapping operation was sanctioned.
Clive Goodman was royal correspondent of News of the World. Was he working in total isolation with no one at the News of the World aware of his activity, no one knowing the amount of money that was being paid on this project? Well, the public will make up their own mind.
The jailing for 4 months today of News of the World royal editor Clive Goodman has shaken the newspaper industry. His operation to tap the phone messages of members of the royal family and their employees, described in court as an inexcusable invasion of privacy.
We do it because the targets are important. We do it to investigate bribery, corruption, things that are in the public interest. It seems that what Clive Goodman was doing at the News of the World and what his employers were doing was just looking for celebrity tittle-tattle.
Princes William and Harry were amongst Goodman's phone-tapping victims, alongside celebrities like supermodel Elle Macpherson, actions for which the newspaper has apologised unreservedly.
It may never be known if Andy Coulson jumped or was pushed, but his decision to resign, though intended to clear the air, may in fact have altered the balance of power between the tabloids, celebrities and the royals.
The guardians of the flame of truth have just got their fingers burned. John Gilbert, ITV News.
Still to come tonight, as violence returns to the streets of Lebanon, we report on the tension and fear in the capital.
This is not yet civil war, but what happened yesterday has angered people here and frightened the entire city of Beirut.
And brought to justice at last, a former Ku Klux Klan member in court more than 40 years after the murder of 2 black teenagers in Mississippi. But first, Prince Charles is getting a prestigious award for being a global environmental citizen. But campaigners tonight accused him of being a global environmental hypocrite. That's because he and Camilla, plus several royal staff, flew first class to America so he can pick up the award in person. Well, by genuine coincidence, our reporter Phil Ray-Smith was on the same flight, and he's outside Prince Charles's hotel right now. Phil.
Alistair, yeah, I was travelling on an entirely different assignment and naturally in the cheap seats in the back from London to Philadelphia today. But when we found out that Prince Charles was on the same flight as us, I went up to the front of the plane to try and ask him why he needed such a large entourage. His British Airways flight left Heathrow at around lunchtime today, bound for here, the first leg of a return flight across the Atlantic. And his entourage consisted of 14 people, it turned out, including his wife, his party taking up the entire first-class cabin and some of the club class section as well. It's estimated that a return flight to the US can produce up to 30 tons of carbon dioxide. And I wanted to ask Charles about this, but it turns out when you book the front end of a plane, the cabin crew also act as your personal security, and I wasn't able to break through.
But how is the Prince, or his people perhaps, defending that decision to fly?
Well, his private secretary, Sir Michael Peat, came to the back of the plane. I asked him about that. He said that this was about picking up an award, but also primarily visiting Philadelphia. The award was almost an afterthought. It came about 3 months later, and 14 people is what you need if you're a royal on a visit like this.
Phil, thank you.